Welcome to the Guaranteed Irish Business Podcast, where each week we're joined by leaders of Guaranteed Irish member businesses to chat about how they sustain jobs, communities and provenance. Supported by FBD Insurance, Ireland's largest homegrown insurer. Support. It's what we do.
Hi there, my name is Bríd O'Connell and joining me today is David Byrne, Managing Director of Lisney, to discuss the outlook for the Irish property market in 2023 and to celebrate Lisney becoming the first licensed estate agency and property advisory company with Guaranteed Irish. You're very welcome, David.
Thank you, Bríd. It's lovely to be here.
Well, congratulations first on being a first, so we're delighted to have you on board.
As indeed are we delighted to be on board.
Firstly, David, tell us briefly about Lisney. How did the company get set up and how has it remained in business for almost 90 years now?
Sure, so Lisney was established in 1934 by Harry Lisney and was originally known as Harry Lisney and Son. Harry Lisney's son sadly died in World War II, believe it or not, and then Harry himself died in 1946. And the company was acquired by John Broadhead, who set about ambitiously growing the business and brought a number of partners on board with him. And at the time, kind of had quite a visionary outlook for property in Ireland, and quickly started to establish a network of offices around Ireland. So we opened an office in Cork in 1969, an office in Belfast in 1974. And today we have 10 offices located throughout Ireland, 9 in the Republic of Ireland and 1 in Belfast.
Amazing, really. And I suppose the Irish have always been keen and property owners. A no-brainer. Now, not that he knew that at the time, but a great visionary, definitely.
Yes, absolutely. And I guess, as you say, look, it's remarkable that the firm is almost 90 years in operation, which is something we're very proud of. And I think what has stood well to us is the kind of client-centred ethos the firm has always had, and we've been very steadfast about that. And we're fortunate, I guess, at this stage to have a well-respected and trusted brand in the Irish marketplace. And so we've been fortunate to attract some of the top talent in the property industry. And I guess together we would see ourselves as having a shared sense of purpose, which is really centred around creating value for our clients. And over the years, as you can imagine, we've built long-standing relationships with clients, many of whom return to us time and time again for their property needs.
So property is a big interest in Irish people's conversation, always. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. How has the Irish property market, both commercial and residential, changed? We won't go back over the 90 years, but in the last while, in your time, David, here in Ireland.
Yeah, I mean, even in my time over the last 20 years, it has changed radically. I suppose property, if you think about it, always kind of reflects the fortunes of the economy, and the Irish economy, as we know, has had some significant highs and lows even over the last 20 years. I think kind of most notably, if you think about Ireland, a little bit further back than even 20 years, we went from a very local inward-looking economy to a global powerhouse, if you like, in terms of an economy that trades globally. And really that's the most significant difference in the property market. So we went from a domestic market to what is now truly an international market.
And of course, there's no question about it, but there aren't enough properties there at the moment, particularly in the residential side. Have you seen an awful lot of change since the budget in 2023? And how has that affected property markets at the moment?
The budget in 2023, I guess probably the two key initiatives that were there in the budget 2023 were the extension of the Help to Buy scheme for first-time buyers, which was to be welcomed, and that was extended to the end of 2024. And I suppose what that does is it obviously continues to help first-time buyers, but it also provides a little bit more certainty to developers who are kind of out there developing property, to ensure that they would be aware that there was a continuous demand for the product that they're developing. And I guess also, in the budget 2023, there was a reflection that there was a need to help renters in the Irish property market. And as we know, that's a very significant and big story in the marketplace currently. And there were tax credits for renters of up to €500 a year up to 2025. But probably the most significant initiative last year was the Housing for All plan launched by the government. And I guess the plan aims to increase the supply of housing to approximately 33,000 units a year, which in truth, in and of itself, is a modest number, is still difficult to achieve, and probably needs to be somewhere up around 40 to 50,000 units a year, well into the next decade, if not the next 2 decades. But the intention is to include delivery of 54,000 affordable homes between now and 2030, and 6,000 affordable homes to be made available for purchase or rent by local authorities, by the government, which is obviously also to be welcomed. And then in addition to that, I guess the First Home scheme was launched last year, and that's effectively an affordable housing scheme which supports people to buy new homes. And it's a shared equity scheme where the state and participating banks will pay up to 30% of the cost of your new home in return for a stake in your home. So it was positive to see all those developments over the course of the year.
And while those developments are to be welcomed, in theory, they're quite slow in some cases to reach the market and to reach the end user. What do we need, I suppose, in the marketplace to make the delivery faster?
Yeah, it's a very fair question, and there's, the answer in a way is kind of multifaceted, because there are a number of issues, systemic issues in the development of property, which is causing everything to slow down. So, the planning process, as we know, is exceptionally slow. The ability for objections and judicial appeals to planning applications has significantly slowed down. The ability of planning applications to seamlessly flow through. The cost of construction has shot up, as we know, over the last number of years. Labour shortages are compounding issues. And of
course, the supply chain now has been affected so much as well.
Well, again, yeah, absolutely. Everything, and dare I say it, in 2022 was once again turned on its head with the war in Ukraine, interest rate increases, etc. And as you say, supply chain. So there's an awful lot of issues there in the delivery of homes. And there are some quick wins and quick fixes, and then there are other issues that are just simply going to take longer to fix, unfortunately.
But in January, you published your Outlook 2023. Talk to us about some of the key aspects of that report you expect to come to fruition throughout the year.
Sure. So I suppose the first element is our belief that obviously the demand in the residential market is going to remain very, very strong right through 2023, and we're already seeing that. However, supply of property is very, very tight, notably tighter than this time last year. Okay. So that'll be an interesting development to watch. Again, the construction of new homes is slower than we would like it to be, principally centred around delays again in planning, the cost of construction, which, will have a knock-on impact, dare I say it, for the years ahead. So that's something I think that we will particularly see as we go through this year. Developers need to see a little bit more certainty, as indeed do investors in the market generally. And unfortunately, 2022, with the war in Ukraine, interest rates increasing for the first time in 11 years, brought an awful lot of uncertainty, both into the economy but into the property market. And typically uncertainty is not good for the property market.
Now, I just want to talk to you about house prices. They've fallen by 0.3% in the first 3 months of 23, according to daft.ie. Is this a trend you think we'll continue to see throughout 2023 and beyond? Because so many people are waiting for the big fall to buy their first house. Is that a reality?
I mean, it's always a difficult question, I think, for estate agents to answer, because we're deemed to kind of nearly have, be pushing an agenda, and that isn't the case. I mean, in truth, I think given the level of demand for housing in Ireland,
unlikely really,
we don't see a significant fall in house prices. Unlike, the credit crunch, dare I say it, and the financial crash in 2007 and 2008, the Irish property market was propped up by credit, if you like. There are very strict macro-prudential rules in place now, which limit what buyers can borrow, which is 3.5 times your income or a combined income. And I think that's why you might be seeing house prices beginning to stabilise and even fall back a little bit, because at the end of the day, affordability is limited.
Yeah.
And prices have risen very significantly. And look, there is no doubt it's a market. If supply increases, then prices will certainly temper. But given the quantum of properties we need to build in this country for the next 10 and 20 years,
it's hard to imagine.
It's hard to imagine.
I agree with you, yeah. And then talk to us about the differences between the residential and commercial departments that you're obviously performing currently.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose to talk about the two component parts of the business, I guess, in the first instance. So, our residential business is a B2C business, and our commercial business is B2B. And, obviously they're both property, but very different markets. And we're a multidisciplinary business covering all aspects of the property market, which we believe is a great strength because we can provide that 360-degree perspective, but two different sides of the business. And some years the commercial business performs very well, and some years the residential business performs well, and that's the nature of property and the cyclical nature of it. I think when we kind of touch on the work from home point, it was interesting because we see that in both sides of the house. Okay, so initially when we were in COVID and coming out of COVID, certainly people on the residential side, buyers were expanding the areas in which they were looking for properties. So they were saying, well, look, you know what, I don't have to live so close to the city centre.
That's right.
I can move much further out and perhaps get better value for money, knowing that I only have to travel to the office 2 or 3 days a week.
And did that happen?
It did happen to an extent. We certainly saw very initially a move out to the suburbs from the city, and actually even more than that, a move out along the coast, believe it or not. So kind of a
I do believe that, actually.
Yeah.
I saw that myself.
Yeah.
But did it happen where people went back to the west or down to the south and went to, where we would call fabulous destination holiday homes if we got the weather here? Did that happen, or is it not really obvious enough? Did it happen in big quantities?
No, it didn't.
Yeah.
Now certainly, we all heard great stories of people relocating to the west, and obviously there's significantly better value. Of
course, yeah.
And we have colleagues who now work remotely, don't need to come to Dublin. I have a colleague who works full time from Galway. That's terrific, but we haven't seen it in any significant way, in truth.
Which I thought that was the big opportunity for the great breakdown and getting out of clogging up Dublin, but it didn't really translate when it came, when COVID passed, shall we say.
No, it hasn't done so. No.
Interesting. And in terms of then the big question, I have to ask you this, I'm afraid, for all first-time property buyers, what is the best advice you can give them for 2023 going forward?
Yeah, it's very difficult. I mean, look, it's an exceptionally difficult place to be out there in the marketplace at the moment trying to acquire a property. I mean, for first-time buyers, obviously we're in a different lending environment in that there's kind of really two pillar banks now. So, first and foremost, have your finances in order, have your mortgage application processed, etc. Because there is an awful lot of competition in that space.
There is, yeah.
And so it's very important to be kind of well primed and positioned and ready to purchase when you do find the property you acquire. I think probably the greatest piece of advice I would give is affordability. So if you see a property that you like and you can afford it and you're comfortable with the repayments of your mortgage, then don't overanalyze anything, because some of the greatest,
if you snooze you lose,
who overanalyze never acquire a property. And it's all well and good to let a property go because you've analyzed it on a price per square foot basis and you don't believe its value, but it's not to any great end if you don't have a property.
That's right. Yeah.
So I think and it sounds like kind of fairly rudimentary advice, or again advice an estate agent might give.
Yeah.
But
if you want to make that first step, you have to be brave.
To jump and
That's
be brave,
right.
unfortunately.
Okay, so right now we're just going to take a quick break to hear from some of our members.
Guaranteed Irish Business member Access Consulting has operated in Ireland for over 10 years, helping to achieve access to important new innovative treatments for Irish patients. With a team of specialists including health economists and medical writers, Access produces high-quality, evidence-based applications on behalf of pharmaceutical companies to demonstrate value for money that leads to state funding. Access Consulting are proud to be a Guaranteed Irish member business, which reflects their commitment to further growth in Ireland. Visit accesshealthcareconsulting.com for more information, and remember to look out for the G.
So let's talk about the commercial market then. How is business there, and with the new working from home opportunities that COVID presented, and we all work differently now, how is that performing in the commercial side?
I think the commercial markets last year actually fared worse than the residential market based on all the uncertainty, the macro-prudential uncertainty, the geopolitical uncertainty. So in the commercial markets, 85% of the capital that's deployed in Ireland every year for investment into Irish property is international capital. And that capital can flow anywhere in the world, if that makes sense. And there is no shortage of that capital, which is fantastic. But again, once there's any uncertainty in terms of investment, that capital slows down immediately. And we entered into a phase, I think, that was kind of euphemistically termed as a price discovery phase in the commercial markets, where as interest rates went up and the cost of funding went up, if you like, the price of assets obviously was affected, and a lot of funds stood back to see where prices would ultimately establish themselves. And I guess what we're saying about the year ahead is, Ireland is still deemed to be a very strong economy to invest in, which is terrific. And we've no doubt the funds are there. But again, a little bit more certainty needs to return to the market before we see an increase in transactions, I think, in the commercial market.
And even apart from the investment perspective on the commercial side, the actual tenancy on the commercial side must be slower in terms of the working from home options.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I suppose we all had so many ideas or preconceived ideas perhaps during COVID as to what the world would look like post-COVID. Would we ever return to the office? Would we be going into shopping malls? Would we be going back to the pub, etc.? And an awful lot of those myths have been debunked, as we know. We're back out living our lives again. The return to work or hybrid working certainly is here to stay in our view. So, this idea of needing everybody in the office 5 days a week, 9 to 5:30, thankfully, I think that's one of the positives to come out of COVID. But certainly the office is going to continue to play a very important role in the functioning of businesses. And we would see that from the demand that has continued to be expressed by office occupiers.
Oh, that's good to hear,
in office space that is being developed in the city. Absolutely. So I think office space will become more about a collaborative space. Occupiers may say, well, look, we're not going to have 100% of our staff here 5 days a week. Different businesses have different requirements. But interestingly, talking to office occupiers in different professions over COVID and even since, they say the one thing that a lot of businesses lack is that collaborative brainstorming that colleagues have existing, sitting side beside each other. And that just isn't going to go away. So I think I would have a very positive outlook for offices.
Yeah, and the need to learn about the business is still inherent in any business. So from culture perspective, it's all in the office. So it's fine having a hybrid, but you do need a presence at times to keep that going and to keep the culture alive and to be part of something, I suppose, on a personal level.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's been interesting. In terms of the first quarter then of 2023, it's been rocky in general in business, and we would see that with the Guaranteed Irish members themselves saying, up, down, over, back, businesses fluctuating, a lot of decisions being pushed to quarter 3 and quarter 4. How have you found it in the property sector?
Yeah, again, very similar. I mean, we're living through turbulent times, and I think I would reflect exactly what you've said, that what we're hearing from people is, due to the extent of uncertainty in markets generally, that people feel it'll be kind of Q3, Q4 this year before we see any kind of significant change in market sentiment.
And how did that compare then with this time last year?
So if you think about Q1 2022, I suppose it was effectively war in
That's
Ukraine,
right, actually,
if you like.
Yeah.
It was pre-interest rate increases. So it's a noticeably different quarter, if you like, year on year, with the exception of residential. So as I said earlier, the commercial market's very impacted by what happened last year, more hesitant in terms of making decisions. The residential market has still had a very strong quarter, but as I say, supply is very weak at the moment.
Good to get an overview. Now, David, we're here to celebrate Lisney joining Guaranteed Irish, the very first licensed estate agency and property advisory company to do so. So congratulations on that. You've announced 12 senior appointments in late 2022. What positive changes have these new appointments brought over the last 5 to 6 months, say?
Well, I think at the core of our business is people. Right? That is actually all we are, is a collective group of people with a kind of a shared sense of purpose to deliver for our clients. And as a result, we have a continual need to grow and develop people within the business so that we have the best in class, the top talent there continually to serve our business. So we love, making promotions is my favorite part of every year, because of course it brings with it a buzz of energy and enthusiasm. And most importantly, new ideas, fresh thinking, and new people to contribute to the growth and development of the business, really. You kind of have to be looking behind you in terms of the people who are coming up behind you and what they can do.
Yeah. And new people and new blood bring new ideas, as you say, and new energy, I suppose, to an organisation. And in uncertain times, you do need that.
You do, and there can often be a kind of a tendency to pause in uncertain times and you defer making decisions like that. But actually, in my view, that's exactly when you need that energy and impetus.
So what changes have happened over the last 12 months with Lisney then?
Over the last 12 months, so last year we were very proud to acquire the Sotheby's International Realty franchise for Ireland. So Sotheby's International Realty obviously has a linkage to the Sotheby's Art House. Two iconic brands, I guess, is how we would describe it. An iconic global brand, Sotheby's International Realty, with 1,000 offices in 81 countries worldwide. And that's been a phenomenal success for our residential business.
Brilliant.
It's opened up our residential business to the entire world. And again, back to the point about the Irish economy being truly global. Yeah. We've been kind of completely blown away by the referrals back and forth from the network.
That's
in
brilliant.
Terms of interest in acquiring Irish residential property.
Good to see, and good move by Lisney.
Yeah, we're delighted. So far, so good.
A brave and good move by Lisney.
Well, I think it's important to be brave. And, that's how a company hopefully remains in existence for 90 years and beyond. And we're just about to launch a refreshed and revitalised brand for our commercial business, so Lisney Commercial Real Estate. And again, both combined, I guess, play to our Irish heritage, which is so important to us.
Absolutely. And all available on guaranteedirishhouse.ie, which is a resource for all property requirements and component parts that go into building your house or your development. So a definite resource and a good linkage with Lisney and our architects, our property investors, our property developers. Lisney, of course, are now Guaranteed Irish members. What does the licence mean to a company like Lisney?
Well, we're very proud to be the first estate agency and property advisory company to have the licence with Guaranteed Irish. We believe there is space for Irish firms like ours to specialise in what we do in our local economy and our local markets exceptionally well. So it's something that we are very proud of, and being part of Guaranteed Irish kind of allows us to proudly display that. Very clearly as a very proud member going forward.
Well, that is a very positive note. David Byrne, Managing Director of Lisney, on which to end. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks so much, Breed.
If you want to learn more about Lisney's property services, we will leave a link to their website in the show notes. Thank you as always for listening, and don't forget to hit subscribe to wherever you listen to your podcasts.
The Guaranteed Irish Business Podcast, sponsored by FBD Insurance, Ireland's largest homegrown insurer. Support. It's what we do.